everybody, my name is Archer, and welcome to the first episode of Heroes 101. This segment is going to be where I have a guest host, and we just talk about, whatever superhero or supervillain that we want. I'm going to have 5 questions, and we're just going to have a nice, wonderful conversation. So with me is my first guest, Leo.
Hi.
Leo is an improv teacher, and he was my first improv teacher. He got me into improv. So we're going to be talking about Spider-Man, is that right?
Yes. I like the man.
You like the man. So first question is, why do you like Spider-Man?
I think I connect to the, as an actor, I connect to the, you've got Peter Parker.
Yeah.
Who, before he gets bit, is just a nerd. But he never really acts how he wants to act. So he gets bit by a spider, and he gets these amazing powers. And he puts this spider mask on, and it kind of frees him. So when he puts the mask on, is he himself? Or is he the mask?
Well, suddenly he has this opportunity to be cocky and witty and sometimes even, dare we say, romantic.
Yeah, it helps. It's like an actor, Most actors haven't really experienced a lot of things that they pretend to do on stage. So he puts on the mask and he becomes himself.
Yeah.
As an actor, I totally relate to that because I have done a lot of different things on stage that I would never do.
Right.
Use words that I would never use. And at the same time, he puts on the mask, he goes out and he web slings, and he's free. I get on stage, and I get to pretend to be, last week I was Picasso. I am not a ladies' man by any stretch. I'm just not going to do it. That doesn't happen. But Picasso's this real flamboyant womanizer, and I got to flirt and make eye contact and be rude somewhat to women, which I would never do. But I've seen guys, when I was in high school and in college, guys were like, well, I'm big, I'm tough, I'm a jerk. Girls flock to him. I don't know why. That's another episode.
I don't know if I'm going to cover that, but I don't know, he might.
But when you get to let go and not worry about, somebody will see this and know it's me. As an actor, you're up there and you bear it all. And that's what Spider-Man does. He puts on the mask and he bears everything to help people.
Yeah.
The struggle within the character, he blames himself for almost everything that ever happened.
And that's hard when you're, what was he, 15, 16?
Yeah, 15.
For a 16 or 15-year-old, and by that time, what was he even doing at that age?
He was just a high school student. He was a high school student who was enamored with science. Intellectually, he's on par with Richards.
Right.
With Reed Richards. He at the age of 15, he developed web fluid that is strong enough to hold a car and his body weight and big bad supervillains, and yet it dissolves within an hour, so there's no trace that he was ever there.
Like a real spider, by the way.
Yeah. So he was smart enough and he was intelligent enough to think that far ahead. Now, if I got bit by a spider and I had powers and I could
holy crap, I gotta go to the hospital.
Well, there's that, but I would go down. We're in Evansville. The buildings are like this tall, but I would go to the tallest building. If I'd be like, yeah, oh, I need a mask. Oh, crud. So he was the school nerd. He was picked on. Flash Thompson, just bullied him to no end.
Yeah.
And another thing about the Spider-Man character is that Flash Thompson adored Spider-Man.
That's right. I remember that.
Totally adored Spider-Man. Like, Flash Thompson was Spider-Man's biggest fan and despised Parker.
if you were like any 15 or 16-year-old, you would probably think, I wish I could just rip this mask off right now and say, hey, suck it, I am him.
Yeah, and see, that's the thing. The mask gave him freedom, you know, and at the same time, being Parker, the guilt and the responsibility, with great power comes great responsibility. Slide it in there. You know, he felt responsible for keeping Aunt May safe, especially after Uncle Ben, because, you know,
another thing he blamed himself for.
I mean, to a point, yeah, it was his fault. I mean, he had the opportunity to stop the burglar. At the same time, it's like anybody, when you're thrown into fame as a wrestler, you know, he was making money, he was doing his thing, which is what he saw as what was supposed to happen.
Yeah.
You know, I don't have to worry about anybody else. I'm just worrying about me now.
Yeah, because with this money, I mean, hey, I'm bringing home an income, but at the same time, if I get involved, I don't want to get in trouble for anything.
Right. It's not my problem.
Yeah, not my problem.
Like a lot of society today, it's not my problem, so I'm just going to let it go. After Uncle Ben died, and he realized that, wow, I am responsible, and that the death of Uncle Ben carries forward throughout the entire series.
As does Gwen Stacy's death.
Gwen Stacy, all of it. You know, and there's some argument as to who killed Gwen Stacy. I'm of the opinion that it was actually the Goblin. People will argue that, but
yes,
Parker, you know, and that was one thing in the Amazing Spider-Man series that I knew it was going to happen. My wife didn't know it was going to happen. I didn't tell her.
My mom didn't know it was going to happen.
And when there's that slow motion scene where he's shot the web, and the web turns into this hand. And he's trying.
I feel like that's the only thing that resonated with me, and throughout that whole movie, that's the only part where I was like, "That's it."
Well, because it was that webbing, you could see his struggle, his I'm trying so hard, and that the slow motion in that particular scene. I mean, you could have just showed a hand, but that slow motion showed how much he cared for everybody around him, and that's what, to me, the character is based on. That he wants to do right, yet, you know, J. Jonah Jameson, you know, is there's Spider-Man, there's the anti-Spider-Man. Jameson thinks he is despicable, and yet he still does what he does.
Yeah.
You know, and I think that's hard for anybody, especially nowadays. If you try to stand up and do the right thing, you're probably going to get spit at.
Yeah.
You know, because it's way easier to just go with the flow than it is to stand up and say, hey, this is what's right.
Can I ask you, what was your introduction? Your introduction to Spider-Man?
My first Spider-Man comic was the first issue of The Death of Kraven.
Gotcha.
88 or 89, I can't remember. A friend of mine had given me an X-Men comic book, and I read it, and I was like, oh, that's cool. And there was a drugstore. I mean, at that time, I didn't even know there was a thing as a comic shop.
Yeah.
And so I would go every month to this drugstore, and you know, I read that first issue, and this is Black costume Spider-Man. And I read it, you know, and the story just grabbed me, and then that final, I think it was a 6-issue series, and in the 5th issue, Kraven is doing this long speech and saying, you know, I tried to take his place, but he's a better person than I am, and I don't deserve, you know, all these years chasing him, and, you know, this big, long, woe is me, Hamlet speech. And they cut to a panel, and it's just, bam! And you're like, what just happened? And then it pans out, and you see his arm and his leg hanging out of a coffin.
Oh, dang.
And I was like, whoa.
Mm-hmm.
Whoa.
Yeah.
Um,
How old were you, by the way?
I was in 8th grade, so 14,
Mm-hmm.
14, 15.
God bless you.
Thank you. And after that series, what happened was I had missed one of the numbers in that series.
I hate that.
And I was talking, I was asking, where can I get this? So, well, there's this place in Evansville called Book Broker.
Mm-hmm.
So, what is Book Broker?
I remember
They
that.
sell comic books. Well, they're still there. Culvert Avenue. Plug. And I went in, and the guy that I went in to talk to, he's actually still working there. I went, listen, I've been reading the Spider-Man series, and there's an issue. He goes, well, what number is it? And I was like, it's number 5. He's like, no, it's not. And I went, I didn't even understand, like, there's each issue of a comic book has
Yeah.
a number on it, which makes finding it so much easier. And I was like, man, I don't know, but it's the series. He's fighting Kraven, and I've read this whole series, and I'm missing this one. And he's like, I'm sorry, man, I can't help you.
That's heartbreaking.
And so I came back a couple weeks later, and he's like, were you in here a couple weeks ago looking for a Spider-Man? I was like, yeah. He goes, is it this one? And I went, yeah, that's it. How did you? He goes, this is the issue number. This is the issue.
Oh
this,
my gosh.
This is the number that you. And I was like, you're my hero. And since that moment, Book Broker was my comic home.
Yeah.
And it was, the comics community is kind of like the theater community.
Yeah.
When you're in, and even if you step out for a while,
You're still
always,
in.
You're always welcome. Because I spent a lot of money. I could have, if I had children, I could probably put 4 kids through college from the money that I
Oh
spent.
my gosh, Leo.
You have no idea. I have boxes. Anyway, and so for the next 20 years, longer than that, for the next 25, almost 30 years.
Don't hate yourself that much.
I'm an old comic book geek. I would go Thursday. Comics came out on Wednesday, but I would go on Thursday because I just didn't.
Good choice.
I didn't want to get in the mob.
Yeah.
And so I went to USI after I graduated high school, and I had an acting class on Thursday. I got out of acting class, and I went to Book Broker. That was my Thursday schedule.
Yep.
Going to Book Broker kept me to go to class because I had a reason to.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm going to go to an acting class, and then I'm going to read comics.
Mm-hmm.
And it was a routine, and it becomes habitual. And I mean, I'm a Spider-Man fan. I mean, I'm an old, I'm not old school. I'm not old enough to be like 60s era and 70s era because I can't afford those. But I came in right along, in that era where McFarlane came in, and he kind of changed. He kind of went from this to me, and I adore all the old artists, but McFarlane for me gave him an insect look.
Yeah.
Gave him this, where he was doing all these weird things with his body and, just doing stuff that, even an acrobat's not going to do that. You have to have spider tainted blood in order to do that. And I was engulfed in it. I mean, like Thursday morning, I would wake up and go, I can't wish you. And I started buying. There wasn't there would be like a 4-issue series. Well, I gotta get that one. There's, this series ends. Well, this one starts. Well, I gotta start that one.